Hi there, I'm Michael Mejias of the Dramatic Question Theater. Our mission is to develop and present plays written by women, plays written by BIPOC authors, as well as cultivate a diverse audience that supports these writers. Now, Classics in Color is a way that we do that. Classics in Color is an exploration of plays from the Western canon, only we insert the BIPOC lived experience into these plays. And in doing so, we are creating something provocative, something challenging, and something new. Now, this program, Classics in Colors, rolled out in a two pronged kind of way. The first prong is an exploration of the text proper. And if you recall, in February, we rolled out Hamlet. We rolled out Shakespeare's tragedy, only we did it DQT style by inserting the BIPOC experience into it. Right? Now we're back with the bookend, with the sister piece, a companion piece, the Hamlet Monologues. And what we do with this second prompt is we attach our writers to the play, to the source material, and invite them to explore characters through monologue, give them new life, give them new perspective. And in doing so, really inviting us to see this play in a different way. So that's what you're going to see tonight with the Hamlet monologues. And I hope you'll enjoy it. One more thing. In August, we're going to be up in the Berkshires in conjunction, in collaboration with the Foundry, an artistic hub up there of like mind and spirit. We're going to be up there with them and we're going to co-premiere two pieces from another program of ours called American Woman. American Woman is a lab wherein we generate solo shows written by women living in the United States. And we're going to pluck two pieces from American Woman and we're going to present them, premiere them with the Foundry up in West Stockbridge this summer. And I hope you'll support us with your attendance. In the meantime, after you're wowed by tonight's monologues, the Hamlet monologues, I hope you'll find the energy to go to the website www.thedqt.org, find that donation switch, make a donation. Your gift supporting us helps us support our collaborators. So, looking forward to you doing that. I hope you'll do that. In the meantime, what you've been waiting for, the Hamlet monologues. Peace.
Foul deeds may rise, but also raise the one who wields wickedness with subtle deftness, and I'm not a puppy stepping so heavily as though unsure with every trot that the ground is still below. No. Thus far I've tread so softly and so often, I've ensured the threads of my deception cannot be clearly followed to their origin. Just like a contortionist, I've perfectly performed the subterfuge. The muscles, one taking over just so perfectly after the next, have been my words. Whether spoken softly in some ears or a little too loudly in some hallways, they've always created motion beyond my fingertips. The joints, pivot with impeccable synchronization, are my wit, impetuous, ready at a moment's notice to adjust and amend, and here I am, before you, with but one task left outstanding. The time is ripe this afternoon. You needn't fret about detection. 'Tis but a gentle flick of the wrist. Think of it only as this. The soft touch to ease a glass down onto granite, to close a door without detection, is all one needs to do a deed that changes the sea without ever casting a ripple. It's simple. All great change comes about this way in the final sense, from one minute, minuscule motion. Fate has placed you in a position where your hands best can pull the lever. I have asked too much. Forgive me, love. Perhaps another route instead. Just ensure his door is unlocked and he's sleeping soundly in his bed. Who can stop me now but me? The walls aren't closing in, the plot is not in danger, and if the heavens do look down on us, even the divine must be ensnared in my deception, or maybe God is in this impulse, this shiver of dread I feel beneath my bones. A flutter in my chest is rising up my neck, like a piece of me is about to pop out through my skull if I don't turn back. In this final hour, perhaps that's just the nerves. And if it is my heart or soul, I'll throw away the weaker part and live in power with the other half.
I had no mother to tell me to be careful. She exited the world as I entered, unable to spare advice or warning or much of love. I'm told her last words were, "She's beautiful." They were meant as a gift, but those words looped around my neck like an umbilical cord. They've been strangling me ever since. "You're beautiful," my father would echo, swinging me up and around in his arms. I was just a toddler then, and he'd snatch a few moments from work to dote on my brother and me. To my brother, he'd say, "There's my strong lad," or "There's my clever boy," or "Look how brave you are." To me, it was my shining star, my golden girl, my lily petal. I loved him for it, but yet inside I shrank. I was an orchid, vibrant and strong, meant for the wild marshes, yet on display, cultivated inside the house. On my 5th birthday, I was given a China doll. It was its face flawless, its lips red, its hair flaxen, its expression placid. I was to be her mother, and I took on the responsibility with the gravity it deserved. I fed her, I brushed her perfect hair, I laid her to sleep each night on my pillow. I took care of her with the solemnness and long suffering I imagined a real mother would take. Until one day, after a particularly violent dream, I awoke to find my porcelain daughter on the ground, face down. Hesitantly, I turned her over and gasped at what I found. There was a long crack bisecting her face. It had split at the mouth and traveled downwards on both sides, turning her expression into a jagged frown. I could not bear to see my daughter sullied so. I banished her to the back of the toy box and ran to find my brother. Laertes was gracious enough to comfort me after the tragedy of my daughter and allowed me to play with him. He drew his sword and said he was fighting an imaginary dragon. I was to be the imperiled princess waiting for rescue. I balked, and then he reminded me it was his game and not mine. So I sat and pretended to weep. I grabbed my hair, I gnashed my teeth, I cried out to him to save me. All the while, deep down inside, I wanted to be the dragon. At the moment he downed the beast and raised his sword in the air to strike, I ran in, dropped to the ground, and roared at him. I arose, flapping my imaginary wings and breathing my imaginary fire. Laertes, at first taken aback, found this an improvement. He chased me around the courtyard and into the woods where we stopped at a willow overlooking a babbling brook. I climbed onto a low branch and intent on leaping off and swooping down upon my enemy. But when I went to jump, I tripped on the hem of my dress and crashed down upon the willow's roots. I felt the wind forced out of my lungs as I hit the ground. Then the pain came. My palm stung. My nose hurt. I felt something warm and wet trickling down my face. I wiped it away with the back of my hands. I looked up at Laertes and his face was ashen. His mouth agape. He pointed at me and began to cry. Seeing his tears made me anxious. I went to look at my reflection at the water's edge. I screamed. There was a trickle of blood run down from my forehead, down, bisecting my face. When I wiped away the blood dripping from my broken nose, I had left twin smears down the side of my mouth, leaving a frown, turning my face into 3 distinct pieces. I had done to myself what I had done to my daughter. I screamed. Our nursemaid found us. Then she scooped me up and scolded us all the way back home. When her father found out, he banned me from playing boys' games and punished Laertes for not taking better care of his sister. Her beautiful face, my father said. I hope it doesn't scar. It didn't. But then on, I swore my nose was forever crooked. I'd stare at my face for hours in the looking glass, lamenting the now flawed reflection. My face. I ruined my beautiful, beautiful face. Despite my imperfections, I had no shortage of suitors as I aged. There were fresh-faced boys, grown men with beards, old men with graying hair, all fighting for my hand. I was indifferent to all of them, save one. He was a sullen boy, the king's son. I had met him years before. My father's business brought us in close contact. But after the incident by the willow, my father did not allow me to play boys' games, so he and Laertes would just play alone. Until one day, Laertes was ill and made to stay home, so it was just the two of us. I had brought my needlepoint. He had brought a book. We sat in silence while our fathers talked until... Your work, he said. It's pretty. Your book, I said. It's enthralling. What do you know of philosophy? Hamlet asked. So I told him, and he listened. We talked frequently after that, to the point Laertes complained he felt left out. I hate to admit it, but I cherished the time my brother was absent on some young man's task or another. Hamlet made me feel intelligent. He called me well-read and a fascinating mind. He called me witty, charming, and needle-sharp. Only when I gave myself to him did he call me beautiful. Now he calls me whore. He calls me untrue. He stumbles in undressed and stares at me. What is a man in grief? His grief has taken over him like it's taken over me. His father is dead. His uncle, king, and I, who dreamed of having this brilliant man all to myself, am left like a wounded beast, lashing out in all of his wake. A woman is nothing without a man to lead her. My brother is away. My father is consumed with the affairs of state, and my beloved has gone mad. My father, my beloved, my brother, they're all my stewards. They're all my lords. I am myself, yet I do not belong to myself. I am undone without their love. They have rattled the orchid to the window so that she is in danger of tipping. No one is here to save me. I must try to save myself. Fire, consume me in your dance. Melt me to vapor, not to float, but to travel downwards, to know the depths that the salt cannot hold. Salt, carry me back to the green, the soil, to know the creatures and roots that slither beneath the surface. Cleanse these memories that turn tightly in my chest, the ones that rise when the day is through, and that skip across the backs of clenched eyelids. I'm rolling through an unfriendly world. I'm rolling through an unfriendly world. Roll with me. Yes, roll. Yes, over and through, and throw, yes, sing, and throw your voice in with mine, like this. I'm rolling. Right. Oh, can you hear him sing with us? Oh, he sings in notes of wind and earth. My father was a singing man. As a child, he would string together melodies and place them in my hand. He would take me to the marsh and share the medicines of plants, the songs and messages of petals and leaves and stems and seeds. Oh, there was one plant we loved. Its leaves pointed and green and peppery sweet. Purple flowers curled and unfolding. He would place a sprig in my hand. Rose near for remembrance. I can't remember the exact moment when things shifted. Where he loved me as much as I could do for him. I didn't share silly songs with my father by the water. He didn't share stories meant to guide and protect the child's heart. Oh, what a wondrous love is this. Oh, my soul, oh, my soul. Listen, closer. I tried to create a new song once. I thought I could make myself the vision of a rose. Soft and velvet. I painted my lips with crimson, shadowed my eyelids with greens and purples. I hurried to the door of my love. My palms glistened with sweat, yet the eyes that greeted me were familiar and stone-like. Have you ever fallen into an embrace that pushed you away? Tried to plead with eyes that had already decided? I longed to catch the distance, bring him closer. I've been collecting stones for a while now. They're rough and cold and round and smooth and heavy. Can I wait for someone who wasn't perfect? Can I sing for someone who stopped singing with me? Can you feel it? The wind is shaking the trees. It's a bellowing whisper. Something red still grows. Still purples and yellows and blues. Here for us to remember. To place them behind my ear and yours, and in a circle around my head, and at the feet of my love. Now my father is petals and stems, soil clinging to dropping roots. I want to smell the earth that holds him, rub the soil into my skin. Oh. Oh, I can still hear him in the places between weeping and laughter. I still see my little hands dimpled and still open in the hands of my father. Roll me in that place. Sing with me. Maybe the dirt will cleanse what the salt could not. And when from death I'm free, I'll sing on, I'll sing on. And when from death I'm free, I'll sing on. And when from death I'll sing and joyful be. Throughout eternity, I'll sing on, I'll sing on. And through eternity, I'll sing on.
Okay. To be clear, I'm ignoring the fact that the text literally tells you that Oedipus would obviously kill Laius and marry Jocasta and fuck. Well, Jocasta. Because the question at hand is, who would I, Hamlet, choose to be my three if I were Oedipus? Okay, I've got it. Well, one caveat. My choices are based on what I know of the tragedy, but they're my choices right before everything goes completely off the rails. Fair? So, I'd fuck Eurydice, marry Merope, and kill Jocasta. Oh, come off it! I mean, you literally said in the last round that if you were Atreus, you would sooner fuck the lamb with the golden fleece before you betray your brother Thyestes, and you're giving me the side eye. Whore. My selections are also for honorable reasons. I mean, I'd fuck Eurydice because, well, aside from the fact that it would be the sweetest burn for that prick Creon, she's kind of hardcore. I mean, a knife to the chest because she'd rather die painfully than to live in a world where her son, who is obviously the center of her world, no longer exists. She's like the perfect example of how mothers are supposed to make sacrifices for their sons. Honestly, the only reason why I wouldn't marry her is because it wouldn't be disrespectful enough to Creon. I bet Merope was good to Oedipus his whole life. She took him in and loved someone else's child like he was her own. And you know, love had to be powerful because the whole tragedy really happens because Oedipus was trying to avoid hurting or defiling his mother. And I guess killing his father. But I know it was mostly about her because he has a complex and he would have been better off marrying the mother who's not his mother, but the only mother that he knew, instead of running off to marry the mother who was actually his mother, but the mother who he never knew. Less pain for everyone, definitely. Oh. And then there's Jocasta. Jocasta. Oh, Jocasting me eyeballs. A coward dies 1,000 times before his death, and I would kill her in 1,000 different ways on 1,000 different days for how she totally ruined Edie's life. I mean, you were given direct orders by your husband, your king, your God, who was chosen by God, and you disobey. Love, cherish, and obey. She had one job, and she pissed it away. And now look at you, dead, going to hell with a gasoline corset and oversized bloomers on. I hope those granny panties went up in flames so quickly that the head blew. What? No. That can't be right. That's not how I remember the story. But okay, you know what? Who cares? Because let's say you're right, and that she actually didn't try to sneak the baby off to safety. What the fuck, bro? You just let some dusty servants take your child, whose blood is probably more royal than yours, off to some mountaintop to kill him. She didn't try to intervene or even go off to see him for what could be his final moments. That's trash, bro. Women are trash, bro. If I never have to interact with one of these see you next Tuesdays ever again, it would be too soon. And if I did, I'd want her to have a surplus of testosterone. Not enough to make her look like a dude or anything. I mean, I can't stand the sight of hairy, muscular women, but definitely enough so that maybe there's something to make them just a little bit more redeemable. I could see you making a good woman, Ho. You're the listening but mostly silent type. You stick up for me with a level of loyalty that I haven't seen in anyone. You respect me in a way a future king should be respected. I never question where I stand with you because I know that you'll come to my side when I call. But I guess you have that kind of time on your hands since you aren't constantly trying to take over the world or anything. I could see how you'd run the day to day of the estate. You'd probably idle the day away like women do, but because you're in a man's body, you could have a man's brain. There'd be common sense and brilliance and true power on display. And I bet you probably have such happy sons. You definitely have sons. You've got that I only make boys energy. Like I've got. And then they'd get a mother and a father all rolled into one. Yes, well, that's what I'm saying. I could knock you up. I probably would. I want you to be my whore. Oh, come on, please, will you be mine? Teach me your ways. How can I be everything to everyone all the time? The next time my father dies, what should I do so that he finally reveals himself to me before others? Or at all? How do I keep a hold over a woman the way that you seem to have over my mother? You could have convinced her to choose her child. I know you could have, whore. But I don't know how. How am I supposed to keep going on in a world that inconveniences us from the day that we were conceived, stifling in our developing bodies, holding us hostage to the whims of claustrophobic wombs belonging to a sex that treats the word respect like it's a four-letter word, and frankly, some of us are narrowly escaping with our nads intact. Fucking point of being here when the quality that you value most in others is only possessed by men, and the only man that you can love is God. He makes women of all of us, doesn't he? I'm constantly the one obeying without question, but yet I've to be on the receiving end and have no guarantee that I ever will be, even though I deserve it. I've paid my karma dues, and no. Are we supposed to continue to just give and give until we turn into a formula-like powder? I'd at least like to suckle at the teat if life is going to reduce me to infancy. Shit! Who's responsible for loving and honoring me? Because as sure as shit is not Gertrude. And as sure as shit will never be Ophelia now. So who will it be? Will you love me, whore? I changed my mind. Changed all my answers. If I were Oedipus, I'd have chosen to fuck myself, marry myself, and gladly kill my... It stays between us, Horatio. Till death do us part.
I am a magician to some, a witch to others, and a fool to even more. And yet the power I wield is indestructible. Okay, more harder than the toughest steel, more tactful than a Trojan horse. Even the gods are aware of my power. Once the words leave my lips, I know there is nothing that can be done about them. It becomes a tool for the masters to use, and it is why I have decided to take responsibility for my actions. I thank you for seeing me on such short notice, but I suggest perhaps a window or a location that is slightly less stuffy. I can see why there are some who find this kind of ancient ritual, divine and hallowed tradition as a bit isolating. Maybe that is the point. Also, I am a bit hot. It's a warm day outside, and the last scene we finished before the break is always so taxing. It is hard to keep my arms up for so long, and I know it is nothing compared to that of Jesus, but at least he had some help with the, I should just get on with what is weighing on my heart, and rather than making excuses as to why I'm lacking in self-discipline when it comes to playing arguably the most important role in the resurrection story. The prince and I first met at one of my performances. Believe it or not, the troupe did not always perform before royalty. That was something new. It was a simple retelling of one of my favorite stories, that of Perseus and Medusa. It was quite the audience favorite, given the magic of actors turning to stone for extended periods of time. As Plato says, you always have to show a bit of the spectacle. We had played it as a tragedy, which I thought added some artistic nuance to the whole thing. After all, Medusa didn't want to be a snake-haired Gorgon. She was forced into that role. In some ways, those were the days, yeah, when our art was at our purest form, when we created for the sake of creation. Sure, we would wait behind taverns to eat scraps. We would dream of being commissioned by nobles and wealthy merchants, only to be told our work was derivative. And yet we only needed to speak to the one. And when the prince saw our Medusa performance, it tied our fates together. Perhaps the prince was so drawn to our story because he saw himself inside Medusa. In many ways, he was the one forced into his position too. A kid unready to be king. A kid so wrapped with indecision that it took him far too long to get out of it before he could do anything actually totally and sincerely meaningful. I think perhaps he should have been a poet. He is an individual who would have loved to remain in the great, perhaps. Like me, I'm far too interested in telling stories than actually living. I barely even share my true name. I only go by my title, first player. Like to be a chameleon, changing my skin through the camouflage of other beings, it's far easier to do that than to make a choice like he did. A poet would have been far easier life for him than that of a tragic hero. Although I think he would like being called the tragic hero of the story. Although I don't think he was actually that much of a hero. Although I am here in order to plead my case. My apologies. I'm far more practiced than showing up in a court of law. Never for anything serious. I don't want you to think I'm that much of a sinner. Although I do have to add that the nun was not very pleasant when it came to getting me to speak to you, because I am not in the faith as an official member, but as more of an affiliate member, which some would argue God should be okay with. Also, I realize I do not speak for God or for you or the church but I am so used to embodying so many characters that thanks to being an actor, first player, and chameleon. All that is to say, you are the audience I seem most afraid of. To make a choice to speak in a place like this to a person like you, I suppose, ask for forgiveness. And using my weapon of words that sparked an entire tragedy and almost shoot my little acting troupe to fame renowned. I feel bad for the success of it all. Yes, it is quite a feather in my cap to say my art inspired a prince to act in such a way that it ended up slaying an entire royal lineage. But of course, that only plays well in some circles, the more revolutionary ones. And yes, I understand it is controversial time in church's history with all these different thoughts and stories swirling about, but that the nun seemed convinced I was not aware of the issues at play when I demanded an audience, but because of course you are busy making sure people stay true to the faith, there's a lot going on right now, and this is all a process, okay? And I process through speaking, which is good, since apparently that's what God needs anyway. And apologies, I do not mean to say his name so flippantly. I am no priest, even though I played one many times. And I'm currently in the starring role of the Easter pageant. Perhaps my portrayal as his late father was too convincing. Perhaps I should have never created Medusa. Perhaps I should have turned Hamlet away. Art is dangerous when it's in the wrong hands. I see that now. Yet the fame, the money, the adoring fans, never have me or the other players experienced such fullness. We never go to bed hungry anymore. We have a place to sleep every night. People see us and they look in fear, in awe. We have been commissioned by leaders to help them sway their people. Even by the church, which I am so glad to have booked the upcoming Easter spectacular. I mean, not too spectacular, but spectacular in a way that we will be swaying people to see the true meaning and power of sacrifice of the character Jesus. I mean, Jesus, okay, not the actual figure, but not too actual, since we in no way speak for God. And sorry, it's my actor brain. Anyhow, we are masters at using the power of our performance to change minds and hearts. And since it was so clearly effective in Elsinore, it is my fear that I am becoming like Medusa, a Gorgon not of my own making, but an individual that someone must strike down. Am I responsible for how someone else sees the world? Was my portrayal of such a rich and full story so convincing that I destroyed a kingdom? These are the thoughts that I spiral into after too many goblets of wine that I am now able to afford thanks to the fame I am so plagued by. Okay, I admit it. You know, I am actually not religious at all. But it seemed as though chatting with a priest about all of this was easier and far less dangerous than actually writing this out and performing it in front of anyone. Last thing I need is a bunch of social reforms being pinned to the church door, right? Man, maybe that's a joke for a different audience. Who knows? Maybe others would be inspired to turn their words into weapons. Maybe others will lead by my example and destroy whole civilizations due to a riveting performance. Am I as responsible as a soldier with a sword? Perhaps. Although maybe it's far more simple than that. Think of the enduring stories we have, the ones that we tell over and over again. Why do we tell them? What makes them so powerful? Perhaps it's not the words, but the execution, or not even the execution, but the story itself, the meaning and memory people carry with them, the stories they sit with when they are alone at night, staring at the ceiling, the thoughts that plague them as they wonder, have I created something that will change the world forever? Are those thoughts inevitable? Must we create stories to understand the world? And if so, what does that make me? A creator of worlds? Does that mean? Wait. Does that mean I am also a tool of God too? In my own way, like that the muses, angels, and possibly even demons too speak through me directly than they do through you, and especially through that nun. Perhaps it is that I have not fully accepted the power bestowed upon me. And part of that means taking responsibility, a sad truth that the princeling never learned. Although I like to think he did in his final breaths. Perhaps next time my story will reach someone before it's too late. Although I suppose it could always be too soon. Well, anyway, I told the actors we would just be on a small break, so we were in the middle of the scene where Mary holds Jesus, in this case, you know, me, and okay, there's this really awkward way I had to like position my body to get the best dramatic effect, you know. The Phaedra is such a... Okay, you already know more than me, all right? I should get back.